They say you only truly see a person's character when there's money involved. I never thought that would apply to my own kids. My name is Frank. I'm 71 years old. Retired. Widowed. I spent over 40 years working as a mechanic in a small Missouri town. Raised 2 kids. Paid off a modest house. I didn't think I was rich, but I worked hard and saved smart. My wife, Margaret, passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. Quick and cruel. She was the heart of our home, always kept the peace between me and the kids when they were growing up. Since she left, the house has felt quiet. Not peaceful quiet, just empty. I have 2 children, Michael and Lisa. Michael's the older one. He's 42 now. Owns a marketing company in Chicago. Always sharp, always calculating. Even as a kid, he used to charge the neighbor kids for lemonade refills. Lisa's 39. Lives in California. She was my little star once. Into dance, arts, all that. We lost touch more after Margaret died. She said it was too painful to come back home. I never wanted to be a burden, so I let them drift. Phone calls on birthdays. Cards on Father's Day. That was it. Then, about a year ago, I had a minor stroke. Nothing life-threatening, but it shook me. Made me realize that time isn't something I can take for granted anymore. I figured it was time to get my affairs in order, write a will, clean up documents, make sure the house and accounts were clear. Just in case. I made the mistake of telling Michael and Lisa. That's when everything started to change. Michael called me 2 days later, not to ask how I was feeling, but to say, "Hey, Dad, just wondering how you're planning to divide everything. You know, to avoid future confusion." Lisa texted the next day, "I think it's only fair if we split it 50-50ths. I mean, it's not like I've ever asked you for anything." It wasn't what they said, it was how they said it. No concern. No warmth. Just entitlement. I started paying closer attention after that. When I tried to talk about my health or how I was doing, they changed the subject. Michael wanted to know about the land title. Lisa asked whether I'd updated the bank accounts. They even argued, on the phone with me about who would get the house. I was still alive. Still breathing. And they were dividing my life like it was a garage sale. I felt like a ghost in my own story. And that's when I decided I wasn't going to let them write the ending. A few weeks after those uncomfortable conversations with Michael and Lisa, things started to go downhill for me, health-wise. I began feeling weaker. Dizzy spells. Some days I couldn't get out of bed without holding onto the wall. Still, I didn't tell them. What would have been the point? They had already shown me where I stood in their priority list, somewhere below the deed to the house and the balance in my savings account. One morning, I walked down to the corner grocery store, just a few blocks from home, to pick up some bread and milk. Next thing I remember, I was on the floor between the cereal aisle and the fridge section. The lights looked like they were spinning. My chest hurt. I could barely speak. Then I heard a voice. Calm. Clear. Gentle. "Sir? Hey, can you hear me?" It was a young woman, maybe early 30s, brown hair pulled into a loose ponytail, name tag on her shirt said, Emily. She crouched down beside me, put her hand on my shoulder, and said, "You're okay. Just breathe. I'm calling for help, all right." She didn't panic. She stayed with me. Talked to me like I was a person, not just an old man on the floor. Paramedics came, took me to urgent care. They said it was a combination of dehydration and blood pressure drops. Nothing too serious, but a clear warning. When I got home, there was a knock at the door. It was Emily. She'd asked which house was mine while I was being wheeled into the ambulance. "I just wanted to check in on you," she said, holding a plastic bag. Inside, a thermos of soup, crackers, and a bottle of water. That was the beginning. Over the next few weeks, she dropped by now and then. Not every day, just enough to remind me I wasn't invisible. Sometimes she'd bring groceries I forgot. Other times, she just sat for 10 minutes and listened. Never asked for anything. Never talked about herself unless I asked. She treated me like a human being. Like someone worth seeing. Meanwhile, Michael didn't call once. Lisa sent a mass holiday photo, her and her new boyfriend posing with dogs in matching sweaters. Not one, "How are you feeling, Dad?" But Emily noticed. She noticed when my hands shook while pouring tea. She noticed when I grimaced getting up from the chair. And one day she said, "Mr. Frank, I don't mean to intrude, but is anyone taking care of you?" I almost laughed. "No," I said. "No one is." And she nodded, without pity. Just quiet understanding. That nod meant more to me than all the birthday cards I'd gotten in the past decade. I used to think you couldn't judge your kids too harshly. That maybe the world changed them. That they were just busy, tired, distracted. But one day, I realized, no one's too busy to care, they just don't want to. That truth sat heavy on me for days. I decided to test them, one last time. To give them a chance to show me they still saw me as their father, not a wallet on legs. I called Michael first. "Hey son," I said. "I've been thinking. I'd like to sit down with you and Lisa soon. Go over my will. Maybe get your input on how to split things up fairly." He perked up instantly. "Oh, yeah. Of course, Dad. That's smart. We can make sure everything's done clean. Prevent fights later." I almost said, "The fight already started. You just don't see it." But I kept quiet. Lisa flew in that weekend. Not to help. Not to check on me. She came with a binder. Yes, a literal binder, full of notes on how we could handle the estate. She sat across the table, flipping through pages like I was an asset manager, not her father. "I don't want the house," she said, "but I think I deserve a fair cut of its value. I'll probably be in Spain half the year anyway. But we can sell it and split the profits. Oh, and the savings, there's still some from Mom's insurance, right?" I nodded slowly. She didn't ask how I'd been. Didn't ask what the doctors said after my fall. Didn't even notice that I had lost weight, or that I winced when I moved too fast. Michael wasn't much better. He offered to take care of things, suggested I give him power of attorney to streamline the process. He said, "I mean, let's be honest, Dad, why drag this out? We're all adults here. You've done your part. Let us handle what's next." I watched them talk like business partners. Like strangers negotiating an estate sale. I'd never felt more alone in my own home. After they left, I sat in my recliner for hours. The house was still warm from their voices, but colder than ever inside. That night, I made my choice. I called Mr. Dalton, a local lawyer I'd known for years. "Frank," he said, "you sure you're ready?" "I am," I said. "More than I've ever been." Mr. Dalton met me at his office 2 days later. He was an old-school lawyer, gray suit, fountain pen, shelves lined with dusty books that hadn't been touched since Reagan was president. But he was fair. And more importantly, he knew me. He'd done our mortgage back in '87. Wrote Margaret's will when she passed. I trusted him. We sat down at his big oak desk, and I laid it out simply. I want to rewrite everything, I said. And I want to make sure it sticks. No loopholes. No challenges. He adjusted his glasses. All right, Frank. Who are your heirs? I took a breath. First, I said, I want to set aside 10% of everything for the local elementary school. In Margaret's name. Dalton nodded. She volunteered there, right? Every week, I said. They still have a bench with her name on it. Next, I said, another 10% goes into a trust for my grandkids. Lisa's boys and Michael's daughter. Education only. Dalton smiled. Smart move. Then I paused. And the rest goes to someone named Emily Hayes. He looked up, surprised. Not your kids. No, I said. Not anymore. He didn't question me. Just asked for the spelling of her name. I gave him what little I knew. Her age, her job, her kindness. He blinked slowly. She your caretaker? No, I said. She's a human being. The only one who saw me that way in months. We finished the paperwork in silence. Dalton printed 2 copies. I signed both. He notarized them and tucked one into a sealed envelope. It's done, he said. I exhaled. It felt like closing a door. Quiet, final, but not bitter. Just done. That night, Emily dropped by with a tray of baked chicken and roasted vegetables. I made too much, she said with a grin. I invited her in. We talked about small things, TV shows, her sister's new baby, her car needing new tires. She had no idea what I'd done. And that's what made it feel right. I didn't do it for praise. Didn't do it to spite my kids, though they might see it that way. I did it because she reminded me that kindness still exists. That it's not dead. It's just quieter than greed. I passed away quietly on a Thursday morning. It was raining. The nurse said I had fallen asleep in my chair, a book open in my lap. A peaceful way to go, they said. I hoped so. There was no drama. No final speech. No tearful goodbye. Just the soft sigh of a tired heart that had done all it could. Michael and Lisa arrived 2 days later. Lisa looked annoyed more than sad. Michael kept checking his phone, asking about arrangements, and when we'd be reading the will. At the funeral, they didn't speak long. Lisa talked about how I loved gardening. Michael said I was hardworking. Neither mentioned Margaret. Neither mentioned what I meant to them. But Emily came. She sat in the back. Quiet. Wore a simple blue dress. After the service, she placed a single sunflower on the casket, Margaret's favorite. She didn't cry. But I saw something in her eyes that neither of my children had that day. Respect. 3 days later, Mr. Dalton gathered Michael, Lisa, and Emily in his office. They didn't know she'd be there. Michael raised an eyebrow. Lisa whispered, "Who is that?" Mr. Dalton began reading. 10% to the school. 10% to the grandkids' trust. And then 80% of the estate, including the house, vehicles, savings and land, will go to Ms. Emily Hayes. There was silence. Then chaos. Lisa stood up. What? She's not even family. Michael snapped, "This is fraud. We'll challenge it." Dalton stayed calm. "Everything is legal. Witnessed, signed, and recorded. Your father made this decision with full mental clarity. You both had ample opportunity to be involved in his life. You chose not to." Emily was pale. I didn't know he was doing this, she said softly. I didn't ask for anything. Dalton nodded. Which is exactly why he trusted you. Michael stormed out. Lisa followed, cursing under her breath. Emily stayed. She held the sealed envelope Dalton handed her, Frank's letter. She didn't open it right away. She just sat there, still, stunned, grateful. Emily waited until she got home to open the letter. She sat at her kitchen table, the envelope still unopened beside her. Hands folded, eyes distant. This wasn't something she expected. Not the money. Not the house. And definitely not a goodbye. She finally broke the seal and unfolded the single sheet of paper, written in Frank's uneven but steady handwriting. Dear Emily, I don't know if you'll ever fully understand what you meant to me. And maybe that's a good thing. You didn't come into my life to fix it. You didn't show up expecting anything. You were just kind. And in a world where even my own children forgot how to care without asking what's in it for them, you reminded me that people like Margaret still exist. That goodness isn't loud. It doesn't knock. It just shows up quietly, with soup and a smile. I watched my kids fight over my will while I was still alive. They forgot I wasn't dead yet. But you saw me. Not the house. Not the money. Not the name. Just me. That's why I chose you. Use what I've left however you see fit. Live well. And remember, you didn't just help me die with dignity. You helped me live again, if only for a while. With all my heart. Frank. Emily cried then. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet tears for a man who chose to leave her everything, because she had never asked for anything at all. Months later, the house was still standing. But it felt different. The garden was blooming again. The old bench had a new plaque. Frank Bennett. Loved. Seen. Remembered. Children passed by and waved to the woman who now lived there. And sometimes, when she made soup, she made an extra bowl. Just in case someone needed to remember that kindness still matters. Not all families are built by blood. Sometimes, they're built by grace, in the quiet moments when we choose compassion over convenience. And sometimes, the greatest inheritance we can leave is the memory of being truly seen. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We share stories like this every week, full of truth, emotion, and the justice life sometimes forgets. And remember, there's always another story waiting. Check out our other episodes, and stay with us, here on When Karma Strikes.